Ladies and gentlemen, inflation is going to hit 10%. The producer price index is already at 10% increase year over year in terms of inflation. Core inflation excludes energy and food increases in costs. So the core rate excludes food and energy prices. It didn't in the late 70s and early 80s. If you add food and energy prices, you're looking at, according to Peter Schiff, 15 to 16% inflation. Okay? According to the inflation rate, and we're going to get the updated core inflation numbers, it's 7.5%. That is almost certainly going to go above 7.5, closer to 10%, because it's at 10% for the producer price index. So the consumer price index is going to take, it's going to increase if the producer price index is at 10%. And if you look at actual inflation and how costs have skyrocketed, you're looking at a lot more than 10% in terms of fuel costs, gas prices. Okay, a lot more. 50, 60% according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But at least Trump isn't tweeting. Don't you understand? You have to understand the underlying theme here, the moral component. This is Bloomberg opinion. Today, inflation stings most if you earn less than $300K. Here's how to deal. Take the bus. Okay. Hey, the best, most wonderful people on the planet take the bus. But if you don't have to take the bus, you shouldn't be forced to, or you shouldn't need to look at that option, because Trump, the menace, the orange monster, had 2% inflation during his tenure, gas prices below $3, economic growth far greater than what we're seeing now, with 0 to 1.3%, something like that. We're heading into a recession this year, and energy prices are through the roof directly because of Biden's policy. Directly because. And so the theme is, well, take the bus. Don't buy in bulk, which is bizarre. You probably should buy in bulk, especially if you're worried about a run on different products. But this is Bloomberg opinion today. Try lentils instead of meat. So, I love lentil soup. Lentils, fantastic. But why should you deny yourself a nice steak? Is this like a tax that you have to deal with because, this is what democracy entails? So you had a great economy under Trump. We even had better economic numbers overall. The last year of his presidency, when Democrats and media gleefully pushed to end economic activity, in large part, primarily to kick him out of office. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is a very important segment. At least Trump isn't tweeting. That's the main thing. And then the Bloomberg opinion, nobody said this would be fun. Yes, they did say it would be fun. They said it would be better than Trump in office. They said the adults are in charge. We have the worst geopolitical crisis in Europe, one of the worst in European history, or recent European history, okay? Under President Exum Body's watch. And then they say, well, this is fantastic. Imagine if Trump were in office. Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. Just like gas prices wouldn't be through the roof. President Mashed Potato Brains is Jimmy Carter 2.0, except not as intelligent. And not as coherent and lucid. But they're telling you now, the IEA was saying, oh yeah, we should have car-free Sundays. Do you understand the underlying theme? What they are trying to tell you? Hit subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. We are going to have a devastating stock market crash. You see the market going up. It's meaningless. The market is tanked. It will continue to go up and then go down, go up and then go down. The volatility will be unbelievable. And then unfortunately, everything from Bitcoin to growth stocks to everything will tank. It will be devastating. And I predicted all of that in October of last year in my Federalist article. Read that below in the pinned comment. And share that if you're still on social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. But if you're still on social media, share that article. Share it. If you email some friends that might enjoy the article, it's below in the pinned comment. It's my article in the Federalist talking about policies that Democrats pushed that have led to this situation. You pump $10 trillion into the economy, gleefully preventing people from working, then say, oh, well, we'll be there for you. It's like, no, you caused the poverty. They're like, Biden helps childhood poverty. It's like, no, you caused it. Now inflation is going to hit impoverished, working class, people who aren't billionaires. And you have to understand what I'm trying to say. The theme here is you have to understand, everything was Trump's fault, even when there was a great economy. I had people come to me, this is really serious. This was like when we had record low unemployment, record low Black and Latino unemployment, hundreds of thousands of new manufacturing jobs under Trump, the Orange Menace, the authoritarian, who didn't care what you said or did with your life, basically he wanted to focus on a great economy and a great foreign policy. Doha Agreement, Abraham Accords, first president to step foot in North Korea. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, tell me what he did that was wrong in terms of his policies. People were better off. And everything that they leveled against him, every allegation, they can't indict him or charge him for anything. Tax returns, Stormy, Mueller probe, inflating. This is the most absurd one. Elevating the value of his real estate holdings in New York, the most expensive city in the world. And so you have to understand, they're rabid. They're hysterical. They're apoplectic. They would give their heart and their soul and their mind and their spirit to indict Trump. They can't. While at the same time making sure Madam Secretary doesn't get indicted with top secret intelligence on private servers. How they got there, we don't know. But Comey said there was no intent. Of course, inherent to owning private servers is the intent to hide, but that's basic logic, and the morally superior, wonderful liberal Democrats among us, they don't have a grasp of that. So, gas prices, well, not President Mashed Potato Brain's fault, no way. Geopolitical crisis in Europe, no, not his fault at all. Fuel costs, no, not his fault. Terrible economic growth, not his fault at all. Crime, no, not Democrats' fault. Homelessness, no, not their fault at all. And it's true that Trump shouldn't have said certain things that he did. But that's his personality. I've heard people, he insults people. Well, they insult him. I'll deal with Trump's personality, which actually most of the time I find fantastic, hilarious. Sometimes it's true. He could have toned down a little bit of his personality, or he didn't have to. There were things that President Trump didn't have to do, even though he was a great president. He shouldn't have gone after NFL athletes. He shouldn't have said, negative things on Twitter because there was no point to it. It didn't help the country. It didn't foster dialogue, discourse, debate, discussion, and that's what President Trump should have done. And although he did great things, he met with Jim Brown and Kanye West to speak about, addressing economic growth within communities around the country, okay? Now we're seeing the opposite. Everyone is suffering. Everyone is feeling high gas costs, food costs. Go to the supermarket right now. If you stumble upon this, you're a morally superior liberal Democrat, and you're like, oh, I know H.A. Badman. He was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, and he became a Trumper. And the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post, and he became a Trump supporter. Ask yourself if food costs are have skyrocketed. How much do you pay now when you go to the supermarket? That didn't happen under Trump. And a lot of this, all of this, is a direct result of policies that Democrats pushed for prior to Biden, like the last year of Trump's administration, and then Biden going in with Build Back Better, which was the most horrible economic plan on the planet. Just shoving and pumping more money for it would actually no economic growth to negative economic growth. Not one person on the planet said, gosh, our infrastructure is preventing us from growing as an economy. And Trump addressed that was actually part of what Trump was addressing, that Democrats said, no, we don't need that. Then they did the usual about face and then said, oh yeah, infrastructure and addressing climate change, which is an important goal, but not when you've tanked your economy deliberately, gleefully, to kick Trump out of office. Well, and because of which they tried desperately to claim was Trump's fault. And of course, when mashed potato brains is in office, there's no federal solution to it, And this is why most Americans, 70% or so, distrust media. Media now is telling you, eat lentils, don't have a steak. But why should you sacrifice simply because media and Democrats don't like Trump's personality? Or they think that they've convinced themselves and everyone else that he's a menace to democracy, okay? High gas prices, geopolitical nightmares, this is not democracy. This is incompetence. This is what happens when media and Democrats and Hollywood and Jimmy Kimmel lie about Trump working with Russia, which never happened. Being installed by you-know-who, which never happened. Now we have the Durham probe special counsel. Biden came into office with no vision. He had no economic vision. He had no objectives that he wanted to address in terms of geopolitics or foreign policy. Nothing. Trump came in, he said, I want a great economy, and I want a foreign policy that's great. He wants to forge either alliances or renegotiate trade deals. You might not like the phrase, make America great again, but you know what? He had very simple objectives, maybe grandiose, but they were simple objectives that he wanted to achieve. And he did, despite the hysterical, oh my God, look at the Helsinki conference. Well, look what's taking place now. They had more condemnation for the Helsinki conference than what's going on now under Biden's watch. But they want you to eat lentils, car-free Sundays, don't buy in bulk, take the bus, all of these things that they want you to do. Because it's just, I guess, part of taking one for the team. I mean, you don't want Trump there with a great economy. I mean, you don't want Trump with wage increases and actually real wages going up. The big knock I remember from some people, what about real wages under Trump? It's like, they were still going up. Now they're negative. Real wages are actually negative. You've lost 2%. So you've lost 2% of your paycheck because inflation is through the roof. 10% inflation, even 7.5, they're lying about that, but whatever. Core inflation does not include energy and food costs. Certain energy and food costs. So imagine if they calculated the same inflation rate that they would calculate in the late 70s, early 80s that included food and energy costs. You have 7.5%, a 10% inflation, and you get a 1% or 2% pay raise, or 3% pay raise. So you do the math on that. You're losing money. But there have been estimates of about 2% you've lost on your money. That was many months back from real wages because of inflation. But anyway, the theme, the subliminal message, the underlying theme is that you take one for the team. Nobody said this would be fun, but this is what has to happen because you can't have Trump in office because that's not democracy. This is democracy. Paying more for goods and services, having a terrible economy, and watching every day on the news the worst geopolitical crisis taking place while the adults are in the room. You have to understand the sick and twisted narcissists. They think this is good. It's only about political power. They don't care about anyone struggling economically. They claim that they do, but they don't. They would rather have this economy, they would rather have what's taking place in Europe than peace and a great economy under Trump. You have to understand that. You have to understand that basic fact. Media, Democrats, Hollywood, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, all these wonderful voices, morally superior voices, they would rather have a terrible economy and what's going on right now than Trump. If God could come down from heaven, and they wouldn't believe that anyway, but they would say, if God told everyone, you would have a great economy and wonderful peace, or at least a better foreign policy, but you'd have to have Trump, they would say, no, sorry, we'll just take what we have now. They don't want, even if it's better for the country, they would rather deal with all of this. And yes, it's taking place under Biden, and all of these things are directly his fault. He did not focus on economic growth. He focused on ideological issues. That resulted in what we see today. He doesn't even believe these ideological issues anyway. It took him 2 seconds to jettison combating climate change. It's unbelievable. And then the left, what happens, I was on the left my whole life, I know. When they get cheated, when they get lied to, they actually feel like, in some kind of warped and distorted way, good about themselves. Like, okay, you know what? We're going to, tell the Democratic Party off, but we'll still vote Democrat, because we just can't vote for Trump. Meanwhile, the people that they claim are marginalized are actually doing worse under Biden because of his policies. But see, again, you have to understand, Democratic politicians, pundits, they really don't care about anyone marginalized or suffering economically. They care about political power and utilizing the suffering of others to elevate their political power. That's why things are terrible now, but they think it's great because they have the power politically. That's going to end in no time with midterms and the Durham Probe Special Counsel and investigations, and we're going to have a devastating stock market crash, unfortunately. Save your money every month. Lending is going to dry up. If you need a loan from the bank, start applying now. Lending will dry up. I'm telling you right now, lending is going to dry up. Hit subscribe. Tell your friends about this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I can't thank you enough for the word of mouth, people. Tell your friends. Thank you.